bitter end. Come and join us, DNVR. We are DNVR.
What's up, friends? I'm your host, Zac Stevens, joined by my guys, Henry and Andre Simone. Welcome in to the DNVR Broncos podcast. And before we hop into the show, which is going to be a fun one, probably pretty wild with the way this morning's already going, got to tell you about our presenting sponsor, MSU Denver Online, because time and time again, the one thing that will protect you against economic downturn is an education allowing you to adapt into varying careers. And you can go build that toolbox over at MSU Denver Online. My boys, what is up? Dre and Hank, you guys did so well on Three Ring Circus. It was so crazy. We said, see you, Ryan. See you, Mace.
That's right.
It's the three of us. Now, no, just kidding. Those two are off, and we thought that we'd bring back the crazy, the fun with you guys. I'm so pumped to be rolling with you guys. Thanks for joining me today.
It's a good place to be on a Monday. I feel like this is a nice way to start a week. You know,
Could be a lot worse. Do I get to brag about the poll win?
Yeah.
Is that something I could do right now?
Pretty dominant.
Yeah. 3 ring. 41%. Henry upsetting
hoping we
all
weren't
the
gonna do this.
bookmakers by going over 7%.
What did he end at?
Settling in at 12.
12.
Wow.
So you had the whole Chisholm family.
yeah,
really
that's what
right.
it was.
Nice.
Nice Paxton Lynch
3
percent.
generations
Yeah.
on Twitter, I think he's got. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
Henry,
there's a lot of them.
I gotta say,
Nice.
thank
Love that.
you for being terrible
Yeah.
in the poll, because guys,
Absolutely.
every single guest we've had has lost in the poll, dead last.
Really?
So Dre brought the heat. We couldn't have that be how it went. So you helped the guests.
How do you
fail.
keep getting guests?
We don't tell them that they're gonna fail.
Wow, now it's out there though. Now that people know.
They don't know what the people want. You know, you don't know what
That's
the people
true.
want.
You do though, Zach. Obviously.
Third.
Yeah.
Yeah.
25%. Not
Yeah.
great.
Dre
Not
gets
great.
it though.
Yeah.
W though.
First returning guest, though. First returning guest.
That's true.
So I had an advantage there. Yeah.
Because you're now tapped into what the people want.
Exactly. It's like when you play a division rival, once at home, once away, then you see them the third time in the playoffs.
Oh.
By that time, you've dialed in, Yeah.
Boy, that's a scary thought.
Yeah. For the Chiefs, it is.
And
yeah.
speaking of scary thoughts for the Chiefs, Demaryius Thomas calls it a career today. Number 88 had some big plays against the Chiefs, some huge plays for the Denver Broncos. Guys, when you first saw that DT retired, what'd you think?
It kind of threw me off, honestly. Like not because I thought that there was like more football in him. Like we saw how things kind of wound down, that it was time for him to be done.
Oh, for sure.
But to actually see Demaryius, and they posted the video, him talking through everything.
Yep.
It makes you think back. Because, for me, I was 13,
7? Oh.
12. Oh, come on. Come on, Zach. But yeah, I'm like 12 or 13 when he gets drafted. So he's like one of the first career Broncos that was like one of the guys who I followed closely. I remember him being drafted. I remember all the big moments. And to watch somebody like that retire, it brings back emotions. You miss him. You realize like that is the end of an era, and it was a really great era for Bronco fans.
Yes, it was. It was a great era for
No
Broncos fans. I mean, he wasn't just involved in Peyton Manning, but of course, maybe had the most famous play with Tim Tebow, which Tim gets all the credit for. But really, that was Demaryius Thomas's play. Yep. I mean, Tim throws it, what did we say before the pot? 11 yards? And then DT takes it the other 70 yards.
69. Don't waste that,
you're
Zach.
right,
Come
right.
on.
69 nice yards to the end zone to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, and then what he did with Peyton Manning, guys, was unreal.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Absolutely unreal.
For sure.
I mean, I think he's one of the greatest wide receivers of his generation. Glad he gets to do the retirement, get his proper goodbye from Broncos Country today. Maybe a little too late, but you can never tell someone when it's time to hang it up. He tested it out, but he is one of those, real like physical specimen freak guys. He was selected over Dez, which was a big thing. Dez Bryant versus Demaryius Thomas. I think Josh McDaniels won that decision. Amazingly enough, that's
so.
a McDaniels
Is that his
pick.
one win? His biggest win?
Is it his biggest contribution to the Broncos?
Oh yeah, by far.
Biggest positive, I should say.
That second draft, they actually got a haul that was pretty big, and you know, what would be, you know, some of the foundations for that Super Bowl.
Was that also
50
JT? Little Julius?
No, I believe that was the next year in that Vaughn draft.
Okay.
I think they got. Did they get
Mr.
some
Tim Tebow.
O-linemen out of that? Of course, they got Tim Tebow. Yeah, we'll get into that in a sec. But he was just one of those guys, like almost built like an H-back.
Yep.
And I remember that rookie year. You know, he was coming off injuries. He really didn't get rolling by like year 3, which is when Peyton comes around. So I even remember, like, man, it's crazy. Elway sold Peyton on just the upside of Decker and DT.
Right.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
because it was all similar to this wide receiver group.
And
Where
you know
often
who
I'm
in
like-
Green Bay.
Yeah.
Man, people really hype this wide receiver group. And look, I'm the draft guy, so I've been hyping KJ and Jerry Jeudy. You can listen to draft pods from like 2018.
He knows
to hear
his stuff, okay?
He
But-
does.
At the same time, I'm like, okay, you got to prove it on an NFL field before you. But it is a similar circumstance. And I mean, DT was just incredible. Those screens he could do. I mean, the Yak, few guys did it better, and that's the Tebow play, and that's so many of those quick bubble screens with Peyton that just kept the offense like lethal and so on time. It was an extension to the run game. He's just amazing. And that story Ryan tweeted out today, I'd suggest everyone go back and check that out about DT and some of the injuries he was dealing with, and you know, just always a leader, stoic, never complained.
Yep. Very
Really
humble.
great
One
dude.
of the toughest Denver Broncos that's ever been around. But he was very quiet, so you never got to know it. You know, he wasn't riding off in a cart crying and then, you know, back at practice a couple of days later like some other guys we've seen. He was a guy that was going to fight through anything. Almost like, remember Mark Schlereth, who, you know, battled so many injuries but was just always there on Sunday? That was pretty much DT. And his injuries were brutal, but he was always there. And DT, when he was playing, it really seemed like he was one of the most underrated guys in the Broncos organization in their history, just because, you know, he did have some drops here and there, and that's what people would focus on. But Dre, like you said, he could do the screens, he could do the slants, he could do the 15-yard ends, he could do the seam routes, he could do it all.
Well, he could take the small play and turn it into a big one.
Yeah.
So even if sometimes you have a drop and you're giving up a couple small plays, he was making up for those margins and some.
Yeah, he really was. And so that's a question for you guys is DT the most underrated Bronco of all time?
I think so. I think the drops are part of the reason why, but also the fact that he played with Peyton Manning. I think that some people
He gets knocked for that.
exactly they attribute some of the success that he had to Peyton, which I mean, obviously he had what, a 1,400-yard season was his best. I think he got in the 1,400s one year.
He had more than that.
Did he get in the 1,500s?
I
I'll
believe
have it
so.
for you in just a sec.
I believe so.
And again, like, you don't do that without a Peyton Manning. Probably.
Yeah, 16-19.
16-19.
How about this, Henry? From 2012 when Peyton got here to 2016, a year after Peyton was here, and of course Trevor Simeon's best year, he averaged 101 receptions, 1,477 yards, and 10 touchdowns for a 5-year period.
It's absurd.
That is, to try to put that in perspective, that's a fantastic best year of your career.
Yeah.
And then to do that 5 straight years, to average that is insane. And so, Dre, you said the best year of his
Freaky
career
numbers,
was
man.
16?
Yeah,
1600?
19. Yep.
I mean, just an absolute beast. And during that stretch from 2012, actually all the way to 2017, he played in every single game for the Broncos. And then when he was traded in 2018, he played in all 8 of the Broncos games and only missed 1 game with the Texans.
Gosh,
crazy.
short career. I mean, that prime is pretty, but what a prime. Holy cow.
Yeah, seriously. And so in his career, guys, he finishes with, let me pull it up here. He finishes with 9,055 receiving yards. for just with his time with the Broncos. I believe he was only 300 yards short of 10,000 yards on his career. So the 9,000 is second most in Broncos history. Then he has 665 receptions, which is the third most in Broncos history. He has 401 first downs. That number just blows my mind. 400 first downs. He played in 125 games with the Broncos, 60 receiving touchdowns, which is the second most in the Broncos history. And, of course, Super Bowl 50 champ. And, of course, set the record in Super Bowl 48. Everyone wants to forget, but receptions. No one was good that day except for Demaryius Thomas.
What a career, man. And you forget his, the past he came from with, his parents in and out of jail, and going to Georgia Tech where he doesn't put up stats, but he's still
a blocker.
Such a freak. Then has an ACL, still goes in the first round, takes a minute, but when he arrives, he doesn't just, an absolute meteorite. Yeah, man, one of my favorite. And despite all that, just like even keel, super, super great dude,
Yeah.
Which is so rare for a receiver.
Seriously.
Right, the anti-diva in a way.
Stability right there.
Yep.
Just somebody who he's going to do what you ask of him. And maybe that comes from like playing at Georgia Tech and being like part of the triple option offense where they throw the ball like maybe 10 times in a game. And you're just out there blocking on the edge every single time. And you get to the NFL and he's like, yeah, I'm cool with it because that's how you win football games. And that's what you need to be able to go and actually win football games, win the Super Bowl that they won. And to have somebody who has that mentality, you're wearing the Nuggets shirt. All offseason we're seeing guys like Dame start saying like, oh yeah, it might be time for me to check out somewhere else. And there's just all this drama going on. The Nuggets are lucky to have a guy like Nikola Jokic. Right. It just makes you more comfortable. And, that's a lofty comparison for sure. But that sort of attitude, you just need it. Yeah. You need it. And he provided that. And I think especially to those younger receivers, that's important to have.
Yeah, it's definitely important to have, especially the way the first 2 years of his career went, not just battling injuries and only playing in 21 of a possible, 32 games, but then also playing with Tim Tebow and in an offense that ran the ball and barely passed the ball. And he was a guy who ended up being a 5-time 1,000-yard receiver, but the first 2 years of his career, he put up 283 receiving yards and 551 receiving yards.
Right.
What if it was Des Bryant instead of him? How do you think he, or just not even Des, a typical receiver would have acted? Maybe he wouldn't have even seen 2012 because he would have demanded a trade or something crazy like that.
Seriously, it's crazy
when you have Tim Tebow completing 2 passes in a game. Yet Decker and DT are out there making sure that they're doing all the dirty work just to get 1 or 2 catches in a game.
Yeah, and that sets the tone too. I think that when you spend a couple years doing that, it becomes a lot easier to catch 10 balls a game and also block the rest of your career. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And of course, the play that comes to my mind when I think of DT is that Tim Tebow one. What are some other ones that jump out to you guys when you think about Demaryius Thomas's career?
I think it's as a rookie, he has a touchdown against Seattle. That was his first big game. And it was, because that's the thing about DT, the second you saw him on the field, it was like, wait, who's 88?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Like, he looks different.
Yeah.
Like, dude just had something. So that, the first moments of seeing DT like that definitely stand out. And then I'm trying to think of other big plays. But man, like just seeing him on the sideline, like doing his thing on screens constantly, like that. Yep. If I was to make the DT statue, it's him, making a first move after catching.
Yep. And I think that kind of gets forgotten too,
right?
Or maybe not forgotten, but just you think of him more as the jump ball guy because he was so big. But there were so many of those screens and those short passes that he takes so far, like the one with Tim Tebow against Pittsburgh.
Yep.
Yeah, when we're talking about like the biggest moments of his career to me, I think the 2 that really stick with me, first of all, there was the game where his mom got out of prison. It was her first time watching him play football since he was in middle school, elementary school, something like that.
Yeah.
And just like that whole week leading up to it, especially like because at that point, like I'm just a pure fan.
Right.
Like there's no like podcasts, any of that. And so to be able to watch that and somebody who you really care about, somebody who, you spend a lot of time thinking about, to see him have that moment it's just really cool.
Yeah.
And then the other one that I go back to, you mentioned it, the Super Bowl. Like when everything's going wrong and he had 15 catches in that game.
Set a record.
He showed up.
Yep.
He showed up.
Yeah, he did. He did. And man, when you look at these numbers that he had, guys, it is just insane. So talk about someone that showed up day in and day out. I mean, he had 1,400-yard season, a 1,400-yard season right after that, 1,600, 1,300, 1,000 yards. It really is incredible. And he did kind of, we remember DT's career, how it ended, being, a little disappointing, especially the way he walked out the door when he went to Houston, went on a radio station and kind of talked bad about the Broncos. But I think people kind of think he fell off more than he actually did. His last season with the Broncos, his last full season with the Broncos in 2017, guys, he had 949 yards. I mean, I look at Jerry Jeudy's season last year. Now, it was a rookie season, but 850 yards, and I think, wow, that is really good for a rookie. 949 yards for a vet who's apparently, quote unquote, fading is just incredible still.
Was that Trevor Siemian season?
It wasn't that Trevor Siemian, Brock Osweiler, Paxton Lynch? So, I mean, throw in another wrinkle to it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, again, the way that things ended, it could leave, a sour note. I don't think it should, though. Because, first of all, if you have complaints about the Broncos at that time, hey, I mean, maybe at that time, I still was, kind of pie in the sky. Things are going great. You're a year or two removed from a Super Bowl. Things are going to work out. They didn't. And I think maybe he saw that coming. But also the fact that he did go to Houston, I think it changes some things. He isn't just a career Bronco. But if you're Demaryius Thomas, imagine saying no, I'm just going to play out this season. I'm going to retire. I'm not even going to see what I could do somewhere else.
Right.
It wouldn't feel right. You have to see if there's anything left in the tank, because he is still retiring relatively young compared to star receivers in 2021, star football players in 2021. And I couldn't imagine being Demaryius Thomas and just hanging it up after that point and not just seeing what's out there, seeing if there's an opportunity to get back to what he was, and realizing that he was pretty much done.
How old is Julio?
It's a good way to go.
That's a good question.
Because DT's 33. Yeah.
Julio's 32.
They don't sound that far off each other.
No.
Yeah.
So, that's a great, but it really speaks to the injuries he dealt with before even coming into college and how tough he was. Yeah, right. Only 9 months apart. That's what crazy. I figured. I mean, but that really goes to speak to the wear and tear. And I mean, you mentioned that year in 2017. 2015, the Broncos offense was not good, you guys.
Yeah.
But DT is there with 105 catches on 177 targets with 1,300 yards.
That is insane. That's a great point.
So he's carrying an offense with Peyton not at his best and Brock as a first-time start.
Yep, man, that is a fantastic point. And so to compare, because I think mentioning Julio is really interesting, because I still think of Julio as a guy that could be in his prime and an all-pro. But Dez is maybe the best. He seriously is. Dez may be the best comparison. And Dez obviously got off to a better start, but not that much better of a start. He had 500 yards his first year in the league, then 900. And then when DT heated up, so did Dez. Dez had back-to-back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. DT had back-to-back-to-back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. And that was it for DT. 3,000-yard seasons in a row, then a 400-yard season, then an 800-yard season.
You mean Dez?
Yes, then another 800-yard season. When DT was just was great with Peyton, without Peyton, with Trevor, with three different quarterbacks. So DT was the best choice. He was the right choice there, even though Dez probably couldn't have been more opposite in terms of wanting the spotlight and being vocal about where he, and also being in Dallas, and you get all the media there. DT, that wasn't who he was, and that was just what the Broncos needed. And I remember it was either in 2016 or 2017, Emmanuel Sanders said, oh yeah, DT and I are divas. I'm the something diva, and DT's the cowboy diva. There was zero diva in DT.
Yeah.
No, and I mean, he also caught 90 catches and 1,000 yards with Trev in that 2016 9-7 year.
That's because Trev was great.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Now's not the time, Zach. Now's not the time.
Trev was great, but DT especially. So, I mean, and again, yeah, Julio, Matt Ryan, his entire career. Tony Romo, Dez, all his good years. That's with Romo.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, DT got a lot done with Brock and Trev and the other cast of characters, Tebow.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're so right.
Mix it
And I want to talk about how DT could maybe set up the path for a Cortland Sutton, a Jerry Jeudy, if the Broncos do go from, one of the worst quarterbacks in the league, or quarterback plays in the league from last year, to one of the greats, just like they did with Tim Tebow to Peyton Manning. And Aaron Rodgers kind of in the news. But first, guys, got to tell you about our friends over at Chevalier Mortgage. Mike and Virginia Chevalier are a great pairing to get anything done with your mortgage. And one of the things that really separates them is Michael Chevalier is a certified financial planner, meaning he looks at more than just one interest rate for you when compiling a loan. He looks at your entire financial picture, which is so important when you're putting together a loan. So make sure to check them out over DNVRmortgage.com. And when you do, you'll enter to win a free DNVR shirt or hat of your choice when you do. And most importantly, get set up with a free consultation to discuss all of your options over at DNVRmortgage.com. Mike and Virginia are also proud DNVR members, CSU alums. So go Rams, can say that freely on this. Well, not even really with Henry here. And they work nights and weekends to get it done for their clients. Make sure to check them out over at DNVR Mortgage. Again, you can win a free DNVR shirt or hat when you do, and most importantly, get set up with a free consultation.
Great stuff. Also, I believe it's time, if you haven't already, for example, right now would be a great day to become a DNVR member. Go back in the archives, read some of the great DT content we've had through the years. But in general, support us. Help us out. Check out Henry's Buffs content. Check out Mace and Zach on the field. Training camp, mini camp. They're getting it all done. They're talking to the coaches, the players. They might even be annoying them from time to time. That's okay. We employ them to do it. But to employ Big Z, Mace, the whole crew, we need your support. We need you to dial in, become a member today. The perks are endless. The membership essentially pays for itself. It's less than a cup of coffee a month. You get a free t-shirt. You're going to get all sorts of brilliant other goodies. You come to the bar. You're essentially a built-in celebrity when you're a member. Beer upgrades, food upgrades, service upgrades, new baller deals on merch every single week. You get to participate in our members Discord. Here's the beauty of becoming a DNVR member. No matter how much time I take on this read, I'm always going to forget 2 or 3 perks. That's how packed it is. Support us. Support your cravings for sports this summer and beyond. Become a DNVR member. TheDNVR.com. Check it all out.
Beautiful.
Thanks, bro.
I got something I want to add.
Whoa.
So yesterday I was up in good old Windsor, Colorado.
Is this a sunscreen ad?
We got a little
Should be.
We got a little background on the story. I don't
The thing is,
this.
I'm not actually that dumb. It's just that I do dumb things, and you can kind of categorize them. There's sunscreen is its entire own category.
potato.
Where it's
Okay.
yeah.
Would you say forgetfulness would be in that?
It's top 3 probably.
Yeah.
That's probably top 3 of my weaknesses. But yeah, point is, I went up there for a golf tournament with RK and Eric and Blaze. Eric, D-line. No,
Wow.
Eric, what am I saying?
Shouts to those guys.
I was a little bit naive
Mr.
going up
Co,
there.
I believe he's going by.
Oh,
these days.
Mr. Co.
Yeah, Mr. Co. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So we got up there. I was thinking, I'm a good golfer if I have maybe 2 drinks over the course of the round. One on the front 9, one on the back 9.
Is that your secret sauce?
The secret sauce is to not have too much. The more alcohol, the worse it gets. I can survive with a a couple of drinks.
Okay.
Narrator, he had too much.
He did have too
He
much.
finished a 12-pack.
So the problem was we get up there and there's Breckenridge beers in the carts. Like each cart, and I didn't realize this was coming. I had like this nice summer Pilsner.
Oh,
First time I'd had that one, it was so good.
Just went down so quick.
So good. It
Yeah.
did go down so quick. And
is
then,
this a read right now? What's going
yeah,
on?
yeah. Oh, I should say, yeah. It's Breckenridge
okay,
Brewery.
good.
If you hadn't seen that one
Let's
coming.
go.
But yeah, I mean, we
I
had
did
a
it.
bunch of Breckenridge beers. It was a wreck. The car ride home, which I mean,
throw
after
up
everybody sobered up, I
everywhere.
want to make sure that was clear.
Of
But that
course,
was
of
honestly
course.
kind of the problem. Is that's why I was so miserable sitting in the back of the car because it was kind of a long day. The point is, the golf tournament became so much fun. Because of our good friends at Breckenridge Brewery.
Good,
And it's just another great summer
Good.
day
Yes.
that Breckenridge helped provide. Should also say that if you buy any Breckenridge beers, which you can do by going to basically any grocery store or liquor store, if you want to be sure, use the beer locator at breckbrew.com. But they're also donating 1% of their profits this summer to the National Parks Conservation Association.
That's
which-
big time.
Yeah.
That's big time.
I mean,
That's
we all love nature here, right?
Absolutely.
Probably Zach more than Dre
Especially
would be my
in
guess.
Colorado.
I love being outside.
I love being outside.
We both we both really enjoy being outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just wants to be out in a more remote area walking. I want to be outside in my shaded patio
I
backyard.
can't blame you.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong as long as there's a
But we'll all be
Breckenridge beer with you.
sipping Breck brews, right? No matter
Exactly.
what. So that's all that
We
matters.
absolutely will be.
Yep.
And guys, so I want to get into this conversation about, is it possible for a Cortland Sutton or a Jerry Jeudy to follow in Demaryius Thomas's path here? And I'm going to preface it with what John Elway said about DT this morning after DT announced his retirement. So here is his statement. He said, Demaryius had an incredible NFL career and was such a big part of everything we accomplished during his many years as a Bronco. DT was the complete package as a wide receiver, growing into one of the very best at his position. The combination of his size, speed, strength, and athleticism was unmatched. Demaryius's remarkable consistency and production were instrumental in our offense setting historic records and our team winning a lot of games, including 2 AFC championships and Super Bowl 50. Equally as impressive as his many catches, big plays, and touchdowns was the fact he didn't miss a game for nearly 7 years in a row. You could always count on DT. He belongs among the greatest players in Broncos history for what he's meant to this organization on and off the field and out in the community. We appreciate everything Demaryius did for us and congratulate him on his retirement from the NFL. That
What
just
a quote.
I was going to say,
man.
I mean, coming from
Yeah.
John, too, which,
Dude.
by the way, happy birthday, big guy.
Happy
Number
birthday.
7, 61
61
years old today. And we were talking before the show. He's like 5 years away from retirement.
5. John,
yeah.
because you're already in your 60s, you might have been screwed. You might have to wait till 67. Again, though, we just Googled this for 2 seconds. So we apologize if we're not super dialed in.
And
on
I
all
was
this.
in charge of that Google for
Yeah.
whatever that's worth. You know.
He still has some Breck in his veins after last night, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, nailed it.
But do we think John can retire early? Do we think
I think he can
retire
pull it
soon?
off.
I don't
Maybe
know.
open
He can pull
another
it off.
dealership, car dealership to make it happen?
Well, a little part-time dealership
Yeah,
for him.
right.
I'm
Yeah.
guessing he's got a couple of IRAs set up that have got him covered. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if not, I mean, he has the best job right now. I mean, he promoted himself, still getting paid those bucks for the next year.
Yeah.
Right.
Not a
Sounds
bad
like
deal.
a little extra time for some Breck Celsies on
Oh,
the
yeah.
golf course.
Good
you know,
company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good company.
He seems like somebody to enjoy those.
Yes.
This guy gets it.
Yeah.
Oh,
what
man.
do you think John Elway's favorite Breckenridge beer would be?
Oh boy,
Yeah, Zach, you would know.
It's tough.
Spoken to the man,
man.
many
I mean,
times.
the pills may be it.
You think so?
You know,
Yeah.
something crushable.
Right.
I don't really
okay.
see him as being like a heavy beer type of guy, like a porter. I see him more
Yeah.
the light. Yeah, maybe the summer pills.
Okay. I
What,
can see
what do
that.
you think?
See, I was thinking maybe like that the Nitro Irish Stout.
Oh, the complete opposite of what I was thinking.
Yeah. But I'm gonna trust your judgment on this one.
Dre, what do you
Yeah, no, Cali boy, you've sold me.
Right.
That is true.
Should've thrown
Yeah.
that in there. Yeah.
Too
The blonde
Who
hair.
wants to be heavy like that?
On the golf course?
On the golf? Come on.
I just
bro.
want
That
to
is
throw
true.
Strawberry
Savage.
Sky into the mix. I feel like
Straw
he has
Sky.
a lot of Straw
Kind of
Skies.
everybody's favorite.
Yeah, but John's a football football guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Like generations of football guys, I don't know.
How
That
his old
he's-
offensive lineman would.
Right, that
yeah.
he's crushing a brewski with strawberry in it.
Yeah.
A pink can.
Well, it's a beautiful red.
Oh,
It's
it is beautiful.
And
Like,
he's used to beautiful red. Stanford.
Yeah, there you go. Go Cardinal.
I thought I was talking about a redhead for a second.
I was confused. But no, I mean, what a quote.
Yeah,
That really-
seriously. And when I read that, it's hard for me to think that anyone can top that, right? I mean,
Exactly.
in just terms of how much DT meant to the organization, the stats he put up that we broke down.
Yeah.
But DT, now Peyton had DT, but DT also did have Peyton. But then, as we've talked about, he did it more than just Peyton. But what happens if Courtland Sutton, who has had a great start to his career, a better start to his career than DT has already had? He's made a Pro Bowl without a Hall of Fame quarterback, and he's also been injured. Missed most of last year, so DT was also injured. Missed nearly a full season in his first 2 years. Courtland Sutton, exact same thing. So DT got this Hall of Fame quarterback in Peyton Manning year 3 of his career. This would be Courtland Sutton's 4th year of his career. I mean, are the parallels just you can't ignore? And what should we expect if, let's say, Aaron Rodgers lands with the Broncos this year?
The thing about Demaryius is it's just so tough to match. I mean, we all heard the quote. I mean, he did literally everything you could ask for him. Sure, there were a couple of extra drops, but he shows up every game. He averages, 8 catches a game. There was a season he averaged 100 yards per game. It's just so consistent. What he provided off the field as well, it's just so tough to match because there's so many different boxes you have to check just to be on the same level as him. And I feel like that's where you have to start. Because right now you look through Broncos history and comparing players is kind of like a dumb thing to do, trying to like rank them, who's the best, who's the worst, when the margins are so slim and they're different players. But like he's in that same class as Rod Smith and Ed McCaffrey and the all-time great receivers. And so the odds of any receiver getting to that level, you have to start by saying they're slim because those guys are just so special and so important to what the Broncos' identity is. That said, Courtland Sutton has a bunch of tools. Jerry Jeudy has a bunch of tools. Aaron Rodgers has a cannon arm. If you're looking for a 1,500-yard season 2 years down the line, maybe Aaron's last real season as his full self, you could see it happening. You could absolutely see it happening. And as soon as that happens, then there's a path to get into that conversation. But what? There's been 22 other guys who've had a 1,600-yard receiving season in the NFL.
Is that real?
Yeah.
That's
incredible
crazy.
stat to
That's
throw out
crazy.
there, Hank.
Yeah.
Wow, that was smooth.
So
very
again,
smooth Hank.
I know. I've been waiting.
I would have broke that out in segment 1.
But yeah, I mean, there's just so many things you have to do. You have to hit that high watermark. You have to hit like the 5 straight seasons. Both of them are a long ways away. Both of them are a really long ways away. But I'm not going to say it's impossible because they're two really talented people.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of identified it's a complex question because in some ways there are 2 different answers that can be true at the same time, in that with how productive Courtland Sutton's already been at this point in his career. Throw Aaron Rodgers in the mix, a little development, he could be producing at Devontae Adams level, who physically sets up similarly, maybe not the separator, especially coming out of college, both had that question mark.
Second round picks,
but in the right system, knowing what Aaron wants, using their bodies, going up and getting those contested grabs, sky's the limit. The same time, I think you go back to that Elway quote, and it really highlights how unprecedented and unique DT's like high-end traits, speed, size, and all that, work ethic, durability, consistency, really stand out. And I was trying to think as you were reading that quote, how many other guys are at that level? Megatron, certainly.
Yep.
Randy Moss is that kind of freak.
Julio
100. I mean,
Yep.
Julio's one of the freaks of freaks.
in a good way,
Absolutely.
compliment way.
AJ Green.
Important to clarify sometimes.
AJ Green's in that ballpark. Did he earn the accolades? Did he overcome the injuries the way DT did? I don't know. That could be argued.
Good point.
I'm sure we could go deeper in some old school guys that I'm forgetting, but
Well,
it's a short list.
I really like some of the names you've thrown out, and let's start with Davante Adams first, Dre, especially because you know both of these guys coming out as you've watched them, knowing what type of prospects they were. Because obviously we know Davante Adams now, a fantastic receiver, one of the best in the game, and without a question, Aaron Rodgers' best receiver that he's had, at least as of recent. And when you look at his numbers, they are really good. Really good. But when we're talking about DT, they're not DT numbers. And so I want to look at another 5-year stretch. I'll look at the most recent 5-year stretch that Davante Adams has had. In 2016, he had 75 catches, 997 yards. In 2017, 74 catches, 885 yards. In 2018, his first 1,000-yard season, 111 catches, 1,386 yards. Insane. 13 touchdowns, 10 touchdowns, and 12 touchdowns those 3 years as well. Then 2019, he misses 4 games, to be fair. He has 83 catches for 997 yards. Incredible season as well. Only 5 touchdowns, though. And then last year, he had 115 receptions, 1,374 yards, and an NFL best 18 receptions. Those numbers on their own are just bonkers. I mean, they're insane. An average of 1,129 receiving yards per year in that 5-year stretch, 91 catches, and 11.6 touchdowns. Insane. Fantastic.
Yep.
They're still falling short of DT, but significantly. I mean, in DT's 5 or 6 year stretch, he's going for over 100 receptions. So DT has 10% more production from a reception standpoint. He has over 300 yards more than than Davante Adams per year. It's insane. Yeah. And so Dre, and Hank as well, how different are Courtland Sutton and Davante Adams in terms of skill? Like, is Courtland Sutton that much better? Where Davante, where you can say, man, if he can be 15-20% better than Davante?
What stands out there to me is you certainly have more big play ability.
Okay. Yeah.
Right, I mean,
no, I agree. Yep.
You're never going over 13 yards per reception on Davante's end. And Courtland showed that he can flirt with 15 yards per reception, if not more, pretty easily.
Yep.
Does he evolve to be less of that? I don't really think you evolve that much, though. You're always going to be kind of the guy that goes and gets it. Maybe you're not stacking up the volume as far as targets and receptions, though. So that could be the yin and yang there. But yeah, that does surprise me, and I think, gosh, what that really points out is, we might take it for granted, but DT was part of some of the greatest passing offenses in the history of this game, and was the number one target on the number one of some of the greatest passing offenses in the history of this game. So yeah, I mean, comparing them to mere mortals like Davante Adams, you're going to fall short.
Yeah, and that to me is the important part. He was the number one target on the best passing attack in NFL history.
Yep.
That is something that you can never take away from that man. Well,
in a 16-game season,
knock on wood and see what happens going forward.
In a 16-game season, you can't.
But I think like you just look at all these numbers, and I think if Courtland Sutton, if Jerry Jeudy, either one of them turns into Davante Adams, and maybe there's a little different play style there, you're happy with it.
Oh,
and the numbers, the numbers are still not as good as Demaryius's, and it's not a game of numbers; it's a game about wins and losses. But I think it just goes to show that like Demaryius Thomas is such a lofty expectation to put on any young receiver that I hope that doesn't happen. Like I hope that Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, like, they wake up this morning, they see the retirement announcement from Demaryius Thomas. Yes, I hope they do brush their teeth. That is important.
Dude,
Green Mountain Dental.
There we go.
Get there. Yes.
There we go.
But yeah, I hope that they wake up and see that and go back and watch the highlights and see what Demaryius Thomas means to Broncos fans and think, like, I want to be that guy. Like, I hope that is the goal for them, to be a Demaryius Thomas type. And I hope that Demaryius Thomas is around with the Broncos. Now that he is officially retired, now that he isn't hunting for work on the side. I hope he's back at the facilities, making trips out there with Peyton, because he was such a good influence. Maybe not like the most outspoken guy, but in his own way, that's just a presence that you want around.
He would be huge to have around the young guys. I know they tried that with Rod for a minute, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
they still
DT,
keeping that up, or
no, not well. Rod's out there occasionally. In fact, he was out there one of the practices this offseason, but not like in a big role. But he did have a big role with Courtland Sutton. Courtland's first year in the league. And so you would love to see that connection continue to play through, especially because he had such a good influence on him at first. And DT, cool thing that he said in the video, he said, "I'm retiring a Denver Bronco," which is not a surprise, but really cool to see. And the Broncos are going to be honoring him, I believe, before the first home game of the season against the Jets this year, as they absolutely should. He's an instant Ring of Famer. Probably should be in the Hall of Fame discussion, although if Rod Smith, who statistically is the best wide receiver in Broncos history, if he's still not getting the love, it's hard to think that DT is going to get the love. But maybe being a first-round pick, being part of the Peyton Manning team, being part of one of the best offenses, or the best offense of all time, will get him a little further in the push. But Drake...
a few more standout moments, maybe.
Right, exactly.
But I know it's right there. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. Potentially. I hope so. He definitely deserves at least the talk of Hall of Fame. But Dre, you point to the difference between Devontae Adams and Courtland Sutton. Courtland Sutton's the bigger play guy. He's averaged 16.1 yards per catch throughout his career. Devontae Adams in the past 5 seasons has averaged 12.3. Yeah. So I said, okay, what if Courtland Sutton gets the opportunities that Devontae Adams has had? Let's say he gets 91 catches per year, and he just maintains the 16.1 yards per catch. And it's not crazy to say that would go up with a better quarterback, but let's just say it sticks with 16.1 and he gets 91 catches. That would be 1,465 yards. That would be DT right there. Yeah. So maybe it's not that crazy to think, but obviously 91 catches, we're not just talking 1 year, 91 catches for 1,400. We're talking over a 5-year span what that would be. And he would still be falling short of DT's 101. It's just, thinking of it this way just really makes you realize how freaking good DT was. How good. And another guy you mentioned, Dre, was Julio Jones. Yeah. And Julio Jones, first ballot Hall of Famer. He could retire now and never play a down with the Tennessee Titans, and he'd be a first ballot Hall of Famer. And when I look at his numbers, that's when you say, okay, that's what it takes to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and this guy is just different from everyone. In his the best 6-year stretch that he had, in 6 years, guys, he averaged 1,564 yards per game, 104 catches, and only 6 touchdowns. He averaged 15.1 yards per reception. So again, those numbers probably really unrealistic to ever ask anyone to do.
Freaky.
But you look at the 15.1 yards per catch. Courtland Sutton right now, 16.1.
Yep.
I mean, so I don't think it's fair to expect, if the Broncos get Aaron Rodgers, to that Courtland Sutton will have the numbers DT had. But man, there are some things that give you hope that he could be not just great, not just a Pro Bowler and All-Pro, but like legendary.
He has the tools.
Absolutely.
I mean, we've always known that he's big and he can run and he can jump, and if he can put all those pieces together, which, I mean, he's put a bunch of them together to turn himself into what he is now.
Right.
There's, 2-3 more steps to go before you get into that conversation. But you mentioned like the 6 touchdowns with Julio. That is the weak point of his resume.
That's wild.
1 double-digit touchdown season.
Wow.
He had 10 touchdowns in 1 season. And that's always been like the thing that really doesn't make any sense, because you look at him, it's like,
yeah,
you get in the red zone. What is the first thing you do? Lob the ball up to Julio.
Yes.
Yeah, totally.
What it should be.
And what? That doesn't work? Like,
when you think
there is the little flaw in the resume.
More big plays to get in there. But Devontae Adams, by comparison, 4 of the last 5 seasons going with double-digit touchdowns, 18 in last season alone. Yikes.
Yeah.
But when you look at the stats where Courtland really needs to improve, and this is one of those chicken and egg stats, how much of it is on the wide receiver, how much of it's on the quarterback. His catch percentage, Sutton's, that is, right around 54.7. So that's the amount of targets thrown your way that you're able to turn into receptions.
Yep.
Devontae Adams had a ridiculous 77.2% last year. That's catching 115 out of 149 balls thrown your way. That's absurd.
That had to be tops of the league, especially for someone over 50 catches.
By a mile. And in his career, averaging 64.8. So obviously, sure helps when you have a Hall of Fame quarterback thrown your way, right? You're gonna a lot more of those targets are gonna be on target,
right.
But you also gotta finish your end of the bargain. The one thing you didn't mention, Henry, his hands, man. Sutton's hands, out of this world. You know, that's what really allows him to make up for those other advantages he might not have as far as speed and quickness. If he can maximize that, but the other thing is, how does he come back from an injury? You know?
Yeah, and that's a very legitimate
You know
question.
better than any of us how he's looked so far and what people are saying about his return.
And that's a great point, Dre, because he does look great. He looks fine, but he may not start training camp 100%. And I don't expect him to start training camp 100%. And one thing that I don't want to get fooled by this year is we hear guys come back from a big time injury like that and they say, I'm feeling great, I'm ready to go, especially week 1 comes around. And, he was 90% in training camp. He says he's 100% week 1. But then typically after that first year coming back, every guy says, last year I was feeling really good, but still it was just a little off.
Yes.
I don't want to forget that this year.
Yes.
So if they get Aaron Rodgers, even if it's Drew or Teddy, I still expect a very good season from Cortland. I mean, 900,000 yards. It should be the expectation. But then maybe it's in 2022 when it's the 1,300 yards.
Exactly.
Season, and when you really see him just break out and be that guy.
Right. Yeah. That extra gear might just be missing until we get to 2022. You're exactly right. You always hear that like, oh, yeah, last year I wasn't 100%.
Right. Exactly. Man, guys, I've really enjoyed this. And I'm glad that we came to the conclusion that Cortland Sutton is better than Julio Jones. He's better than Dez Bryant. He's better than everyone. Maybe Cortland Sutton will follow in his steps. I've really enjoyed riding with you guys today. Thanks for making this Monday great. We're going to jump over to the pod side of this. So anywhere you find pods, search Broncos. Will be the first one that pops up, and you can get the second half of this pod there. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're on YouTube, please give us a like, subscribe,
thumbs up,
set alerts so you know next time that Henry and Andre are on with us talking Broncos. But we really appreciate you guys tuning in. We'll jump over to the pod side now. Thank you guys for tuning in.